text-to-voice synthesis provided by Vidnami. No act changes a country into a corporation. January 19, 2021 by Anna von Reitz. Lots of people are suddenly running around parroting nonsense, saying that the Act of 1871 converted this country into a corporation, but that is an obvious impossibility that didn't happen in 1871 or at any other time. Countries are not and cannot be corporations. As I have already pointed out, the Real Mischief being referenced actually occurred the prior year, when the Municipal United States falsely claimed the ability as a representative of our lawful government to charter corporations. This Corporations Act of 1870 usurped upon a fundamental right and power of the United States of America that was never granted to the Municipal United States Government by any constitution, and it could not be magically granted to the Municipal United States Government by any self-serving act of Congress. That entire action was unconstitutional ultra vires overreach on the part of the members of the then Congress, null and void from inception. Remember that under Roman civil law, that is, municipal law, you can lie and cheat and steal all you like, so long as nobody calls you on it. Once fraud is discovered and opposed, however, that same Roman civil law will happily crush you underfoot. The Corporations Act of 1870 was a crime of fraudulent misrepresentation of authority undertaken by our employees usurping upon us, and we have objected to it. Just like a game of wizard's chess, the big chess pieces begin to move and things start blowing up. A chain reaction of unavoidable, logical, inexorable consequences begins. Under their own law, the rats have to capitulate. They always knew that they were running this risk, but did it anyway, thinking that nobody would catch on to their deceit. Now, all the U.S. corporations that were formed under these circumstances are having a hissy fit and trying to avoid the obvious fact that they have no valid charter. None of them have any valid basis to exist, unless we extend our sovereign power to reconvey their charters and place them under our public law and authorize them to continue to operate. All the territorial USA corporations are in exactly the same or worse position, because they were authorized as municipal corporation franchises, that is, the Municipal Corporation of the District of Columbia authorized the existence of USA, Inc. as a franchise of the U.S., Inc. Fraud vitiates everything it touches. So, here are all these thousands upon thousands of invalid business structures, and everything they do is tainted. Are you beginning to see why the whole world is stymied and in a state of shock and paralysis? The only way that these businesses can continue to function is if we come back through the door and validate their incorporation, albeit, their incorporation under our own separate authority and control as the lawful government of this country. People like Bill Gates suddenly have a choice: operate lawfully or go bye-bye. As the kingpins in this corrupt system are mostly crooks themselves, this is not exactly a welcome opportunity, and some elements are fighting it tooth and nail, but overall, reform beats the alternative, liquidation. Picture yourself as a completely dissolute alcoholic playboy with a gambling addiction, 10 mistresses, a drug habit, and debts to the mafia, and suddenly, you are told in all seriousness, that you have to totally reform all your bad habits or die? Some of these corporations are going to choose corporate death, because the reform required is too radical for their directors to stomach. Others are going to look at the situation and say, well, we can live and prosper under the public law. We'll reform and recharter. That is what the German, Italian, and Russian governments have already decided, because it was never to their advantage to be part of the municipal scheme in the first place. Others will follow. Our lawful government doesn't have a problem granting valid charters to U.S. corporations that are operating honestly and providing goods and services that people need. In fact, by operation of law, we are holding all the U.S. corporation charters right now, which includes all the territorial corporation charters as a result of the way the whole thing was structured from the beginning. Getting back to the mass delusion about the Act of 1871, which was repealed in 1874, all that really happened as a result of the Act of 1871 and the later tinkering that resulted from it, was that our federal subcontractors stopped operating as unincorporated business enterprises and started operating as incorporated municipal corporations. This obviously did not change our country into a municipal corporation. The fallout of the Act of 1871 changed the business structures that our municipal and territorial subcontractors were operating under. It changed the power structure and relationship between the two federal subcontractors. It changed the form of law they were operating under. It allowed them to exploit bankruptcy privileges. It allowed them to commit crimes of deceit. Yes, the combined result of the Corporations Act of 1870 and the nested tangle of legislation stemming from the Act of 1871 had a lot of unfortunate, for us and others, consequences, but it resoundingly did not change our American government, it did not change the obligations of these federal subcontractors, and it did not change our country into a corporation.